So today we are making a really classic Italian biscuit, the Amaretti, the almond Amaretti. And if you're feeling like putting in one extra step, almond and cherry Amaretti. This is a biscuit that is crispy on the outside, quite chewy, but bursting full of almond flavor. Bellissima! We start by preheating the oven and lining a tray with some baking parchment paper. The recipe is pretty straightforward. We're going to use a blender or food processor. I like using raw almonds because they have a really nice marzipany flavor, and with the blending in this recipe, we have a great texture. I like to throw in a used up vanilla bean, one that's dried and probably not going to get used, caster sugar, rolled oats, and baking powder. We're going to pulse this to a fine meal. You can use a food processor or a blender. So, because I'm using a small blender, I'm not going to add the water because we won't get the good circulation that we need. If you were using a food processor, however, I would just add the water straight in while it's running, and then it will kind of clump up and form the dough. So adding the water to our mix, we just want to mix it until all the dry components have been combined and the mixture looks even. And then we give it about 10 minutes and it's going to firm right up. Some people like a really strong almond flavor, and I prefer a more natural one from raw almonds. You're welcome to add a few drops of bitter almond extract. So you can leave these as just plain almond Amaretti, or roll an Amarena or glace cherry inside, and this is just going to give a burst of beautiful cherry flavor that goes so well with almond. If you're leaving these as plain Amaretti, I recommend rolling them into roughly 25-gram portions. So you can just take a piece of dough. This firms up from the oats absorbing all that liquid. So I'm going to split my batch into plain Amaretti and cherry filled. So we have a 20-gram portion for filling with a cherry and a 25-gram just leaving plain. So we're just going to roll them and then roll them in icing sugar. And this icing sugar kind of gives way to creates a slight crust. It's going to crack open to reveal a really soft and very tender, moist center. So this dough has a tendency to dry out if you leave it for a long time. So I'd recommend when you're rolling them, just using a very slight amount of water or dipping your fingers every few rolls into some water, just to moisten the outside very gently. If you use too much, the icing sugar will dissolve, and that's just to counter any drying that happens if you leave them out for too long. For our cherry ones, we have the smaller 20-gram ball. Press our thumb into the middle, put the cherry inside, and roll. You've got this kind of slight crisp around the edge, and then this chewy almond, this beautiful marzipany, vanilla-y almond, and can't forget that sour cherry. Delicious.